Gross. Your boy is sick. But this podcast and every podcast is brought to you by Claypot. Claypot is a restaurant in New York City located at 58 St. Mark's Place. Go check that bitch out. And Claypot is actually no longer on Grubhub or Seamless. They actually deliver themselves now. You can order yourself. Just go on their website, www.claypotnyc.com. You can just fill it out. Or if you're, one of you younger fellas and have a Instagram, then you can just order directly from Instagram, which I think is pretty freaking dope. You just need to fill it out pretty much like you would for like an Amazon order, I guess. And you have your delicious clay pot delivered right to your door within a 1 mile radius, I believe. But if you're in New York, that's a lot of people. So go check it out. Also, if you want to actually have the full clay pot experience, you want to actually sit in and dine in, you can use code word 506 podcast and get a buy one get one free for any 2-topping clay pot dish. So bring your brother, bring your sister, bring a parent, bring a friend. Be like me and eat 2 at once. Do whatever you want. Go hang out. It's a good time. Today's podcast, I kind of take a heavy backseat because, right? Yeah, cool. But it's about my good friend's psilocybin trip. And what that word means is just a fancy science terminology thing for magic mushrooms. So I kind of take a heavy backseat on this. That's just because my jaw's on the ground. I'm just listening to Homeboy's psychedelic trip.
How's it going?
There it is.
Here I am. So we've got a hefty topic to cover this evening, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Alright.
Alright.
So, about a week
ago.
I was about to say, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I'm gonna start from the beginning. Fuck it. So
yeah, how did this happen? How was this
yeah.
like impromptu and you're like, yeah, why not?
Well, I'm gonna start from the very beginning.
All right. So
4 years ago.
You were born. I'm just kidding.
I am a 4-year-old. 4 years ago, I was rooming. So my first roommate was a complete shit. So I needed to get out of that room. So I legit started moving his stuff out of my room and and into the hallway. And luckily enough, there was a guy on the other side of the dorm hall who also thought his roommate was a complete shit. So I just started grabbing his stuff and moving it into my room. And he had no idea. So he came back up from hanging out and saw that none of his stuff was in his room and it was all in my room. I was like, hey, and he was like, hi, and I was like, we're roommates now. I understand it sounds psychotic right now because it was. Because it was. But it needed to happen. If you knew what these people were like, it was unbearable. I couldn't do it. We can go into that later if you want, but that's not the point. It's not why I'm here tonight. Yeah. So, yeah, he's an artist. I'm an artist. We found a lot of solace in creating together and making art and just doing stupid shit together and dancing in the dark and stuff like that. It's really stupid, but we did a lot of creating together and that there was a thing we kept talking about was that we wanted to continue to do that and to grow in that together and to one day create bigger scale art and stuff. And we smoked every now and again and but we were talking about how we wanted to have a real trip together, an experience that we went to a different realm together someday. And this was freshman year. We were like, this needs to happen for our creative relationship. It never really happened. And then as the years went on, we we kind of lost touch with each other. We didn't speak as much. We were still close. We were still friends always because we saved each other freshman year. So that was always going to be a part of our relationship.
Yeah, there's a different bond there because this is like,
yeah,
you guys went through that hell together.
yeah, we did, and we saved each other. So 4 years later, here we are. We grew a lot. We grew back closer this year. Like, he was in my thesis, my senior thesis. I was in his senior thesis. He introduced me to Jack Kerouac and Ginsberg, poet. And so like we spent a lot of time together this semester, and we did a lot of we did a lot of creating again. Like my thesis was a performance thesis, and we did a my body as a blank palette, and like he painted me and I moved, and it was really cool. And I was in his thesis as a performance art piece, using his sculpture as a kind of like playground. It was really cool. So we brought it back to freshman year. We were like, dude, remember that trip that we said we needed to have? Like, we need to have it now, because he's about to like move on to, New York, bigger, better things. And me too. I don't know where yet, though. That's also another conversation. So 2 weeks ago, I put my feelers out looking for shrooms, right? Like, where do you even start? Eventually, I found someone who had a hookup up on the deep, dark web.
Nice.
Like,
that's the good stuff.
Weird. I get this stuff, and this guy gives me like 5 times the amount that like I asked for and paid for, but I paid for like what I asked for, so it was kind of dope. He was just like, take it, I don't need it, and I was like, okay, sure. And I had this stuff for a long time. I carried it around with me in my bag, and it was really weird, but it honestly just looked like just a bag of mushrooms you buy like at the store. And eventually we came together. We were like, all right, we're doing this thing. And we made it really like ritualistic. Like we went up into his studio, and we like sat down on the floor of his studio, and we were like, this is the last time we're going to be in here. And like I had spent like nights in that studio, like watching him work and like working on my own shit, like memorizing monologues and stuff, like while he was painting, and it was really cool. So it was very cool to be back in that room. And we like split it definitely way more than we like should have initially done.
How much are we talking here?
So there were about 9 grams or ounces, I forget.
Gotta be grams.
Yeah, it's not ounces. You're right.
There's no way.
You're right.
You'd be dead. You'd be so extra dead.
You're right. We didn't do everything. You're right. It was grams. So we got 9 grams of these babies, and we pretty much basically split half and half. So I looked at online. It was saying like a normal dose is like 2.5 to 2.5 grams, but we did closer probably to 4.
Nice.
3.5, 4.
Solid.
So we're doing it. We're being really stupid about it. We had this jar of Nutella. We're like dumping it in and like putting it on the ends of a knife and like eating off both ends of the knife at the same time. It's really, really cute. We're really cute.
How's it taste though? Does the Nutella help?
Not bad.
Really?
It tasted good. Like but we were also dousing it, and these were like huge chunks of Nutella. Yeah, it didn't taste bad at all. And boom, we did it. We called an Uber to take us to the Harvard University Arboretum in Jamaica Plain. And so we run downstairs. Oh yeah, and we have like sparkling water and like candy and all this shit, because we think we're gonna want it. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know. I have no idea what's about to happen.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So, I know. So
how are you feeling at this point? Like, is it like
we're not in the Uber yet. We're fine. Nothing. Not feeling anything. And honestly, I was kind of worried. I was like,
oh no, like
yeah,
nothing's happening.
Exactly. And whenever like I've done, you know, acid and like Molly and stuff, and I always like second. It's a problem. I always like second guess myself. I'm like, am I feeling the way I'm supposed to be feeling? And I think that takes away from my experience sometimes. But I thought that's what was gonna happen again. No way. It's not what happened. So we're downstairs. We get in the Uber. We're in the Uber for like maybe 5 minutes, and it's like a 15-minute drive, and like my friend just reaches over and just like grabs my arm. He just like grabs it, and I look at him and I'm like, I know, dude. I know. It's weird. Like, I look out the window and like, ooh, like the first thing I noticed was just like the colors just literally like popping out at me, and like I've never seen anything so like vibrant and bright and colorful in my life. And it was just like 10 minutes into eating these things. So we knew that it was supposed to be like an hour before they hit. So we were like, oh damn, this is gonna be massive. And we were like, we started to like freak out a little bit. Eventually, like this Uber driver was being like ridiculous. Like she did not know what she was doing. And eventually we were in the car for like 15 minutes at this point. We just needed to like get out. We needed to get out of that car because like we were sitting, and I was starting to feel a little sick too. I was like, am I gonna vomit? And I like put my head out the window. It was weird. I kept going back and forth between like really good and really bad over and over again.
Was it like physically sick, like
physically
nausea?
physically sick? Yeah, but this kept happening. This was a constant. I kept feeling like awesome and then really shitty, and it went back and forth like that over and over again. Yeah. So eventually, we're not really like where we need to be. We're like at the outskirts of the Arboretum, which is this big forested area. And there's an entrance, but we were just like, fuck, get us out of this car. So we're like, this is it, we're here, bye. So we like jump out, and we literally just like run into the woods. Like we just run into the trees, and, like disappear. And like, at this point, really, I feel a lot better. And like I'm back with like the colors. Nothing's weird yet. It's all still very like a nice like surfacey high, and you know things are nice. And then we get what happens. I need to really put myself back in this scenario. This is very interesting.
How do you like physically? Do you feel like physically weak on like the come up at all or anything or?
No. At this point, it's all still just visual. Oh, fuck. And then it got very like auditory. Like I started noticing all the sounds, and everything. It just like all of my senses, that initially like on the come up, all of my senses were just being like heightened by like 100%.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and even like feeling and like walking started to be like feel like I'm on the moon, and just like the crunching of the leaves was an amazing sound, and we would like put our ears to the ground and like listen and like start like doing like weird shit like breaking twigs and like crunching the leaves in our hands. We probably looked psychotic, but it was amazing. And like just that in and of itself was just like beautiful, and it was so crazy. Let's see, and then we come upon this field of like dandelions. There are all these, you know, the yellow flowers, and then the wispy that you like blow and make a wish. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Those are like dandelions.
Yeah, those are also dandelions. So we're in this field, and it's so weird. The more time that we're like spending together in this moment, everything around us starts to like disappear. It's really weird. Not disappear, but just become like non-existent in our minds.
Like just kind of fade in the background?
Yeah, exactly. So like, and this started happening like in this like dandelion field. Like the world like shrunk into only this field of dandelions, and we were like laying in it, and we were like feeling like we were like gods on top of the earth. Whoa. And like looking at each other like through the dandelions. And nothing else, and like there are people like walking around, like this is a public space, but like nothing else, like things started to just not exist outside of the things that were happening between us. And then I remember this was the first time that I consciously said, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to pee. And I kept thinking back to like reality. Like in these moments, I kept thinking like, okay, what do we actually look like right now? Or like what could we be doing wrong in society's eyes right now? And I think maybe that like also took me out of the high that I could have had. But being in public wasn't ideal anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're getting like super self-conscious,
big time,
right? And you kind of notice everything you're doing. You're like, oh,
exactly.
do I look like a weirdo? Am I sniffing a flower?
Right. And my friend too. So we were all we started to kind of feel like, psychotic. Like, are we doing anything weird? Like, are people gonna call the police? And there was a moment where we were like in the woods, like on a path that like people were walking on, like. Not a lot of people. It was they were sparse, but we were like together on this path, like holding each other. Like, are the police coming right now? They're like, are we going to prison? Like, we don't know. Like, we're just on drugs in public. We don't know what's happening. And at this point, I'm still looking for a bathroom. And then we this is a journey, man. Like, we have friends that talk about the journey and the journeys and all this stuff, but, like, this is actually, like, a journey. And I'm not saying, like, a journey to the bathroom. I'm just, like, the whole day. Like, there's no end goal here. And eventually right. This was also towards the beginning. My friend said he needed to, like, vomit. And this is way towards the beginning, too. So he like runs off in eye shot because we were like, we can't let each other like get away during all this. So he goes down into like this ravine and like heaves. And at this point I'm like alone and I turn and to my left there's this like huge tree. Uh-huh. And I walk up to this tree and I'm like, hey. And I swear to God, the tree's like, hello. And I'm like, dude, you've been here for a while. And he's like, yeah, I have. I have. But it's really weird because the tree was what was speaking. It wasn't like hearing it, but like I was hearing it.
Yeah, you were understanding it. There's
exactly.
A different kind of frequency where you're just like, oh, I get you.
Yeah, it was really weird. And the tree was telling me about how it's been here in this one spot for however long, thousands, hundreds of years, whatever, and how it's been alone and with itself this whole time, and how it's been okay with that. And it was really weird because this is something that like my friends tell me. Like I have friends that tell me that I don't like being alone. I don't like being alone. And I have friends that tell me that it's okay to be alone sometimes and be with yourself. But hearing it from this tree that's ages old, that has like gone through it itself, just hearing it coming from this thing was just like a new experience for me. And it was like, wow, that is honestly like I needed to hear that. Like that, you're right. And I was like, yeah, that is actually. And I think I started crying.
Oh man, that's awesome though, dude.
It is. I mean, yeah. So my friend comes back and he's like, what are you doing? And I was literally mid-conversation with this thing. And I was like, dude, I'm talking to this tree. And he just kind of waved it off. I don't know. He wasn't in it like I was. But so we moved on. He didn't end up throwing up. So we're back on this path, thinking the cops are going to show up. And we lay down. And we're like in the middle of the path. And I swear we're there for like an hour as people are like walking over us and like stepping over us. And I'm like in it, I'm looking at the trees, I'm watching like the branches like move and shit. But like when people start coming by, I start to like feel a little weird because I'm like, yes, I'm in the middle of the path. And I know I like would not be lying down here in the middle of the path if I wasn't tripping balls, you know?
Yeah.
So I start to feel weird every time people come up, and it like takes me out of it. But it also like brings me back into reality a little bit, which is fading. Reality is fading fast. Like,
So which would you have preferred? Like to actually like be able to, oh, okay, I can gauge myself with reality, or would you prefer if there's like no one else there and you're just like could experience that?
that would have been terrifying.
Really?
I think that would have been terrifying. But I also think I would have preferred it. Because there were moments, like the people walking through the park were kind of my anchor to reality. It was really, really interesting because there were moments specifically where like nothing else existed except for each other. And we were scared. We were like, we thought that this experience that we were having, is this what it's always been? And is this what it always will be? And it was a scary thought because I forgot, nothing else had existed in my past. Not my family, none of my friends, none of my experiences ever before. There was nothing else.
Yeah, it sounds like you got stuck in a loop.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a big thing that I'll go into in a minute. But I even asked my friend, I was like, what country are we in? Where do you live? What day is it? And he would look at me, his eyes get really wide, and he would say, I don't know. I have no idea. And I was like, I don't either. And it was scary, dude, because we knew we were somewhere, you know, that we knew existed, but we didn't know where. Couldn't put words to it. That was scary.
Oh, you lost. So did you have trouble like articulating words at some point? Like you lose your words?
He definitely did. But yeah, and there were moments where I would be searching for like the next thing to say, and I would just repeat myself, but I would remember having said that before, but it felt like I said it years ago. And I would say it like after having said it like, you know, a few minutes before, and I would say, dude, do you remember that? Is that familiar to you? Because that's familiar to me. And he'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, where's that from? But I had just said it. So my brain, dude, was just like cranking, like working hard.
Yeah, it's like at like 10,000% CPU, like
Yes.
going like overdrive.
Yes.
Your words can't catch up to like what you're thinking.
Yeah. And going to the bathroom was just like a big part of my my trip because like I drank so much water. My bladder is the size of a penny, so I had to pee 3 times, and that took me out of it too a little bit because I thought I was gonna piss myself. But so I mean the trek to the porta potties that's where the loop came in. Because I'd be looking for the porta potty, and we'd be walking up this like slope, but we wouldn't be going anywhere, and it would be happening over and over again. The same thing would be happening, and this slope felt like it went on for miles, even though it was like very short, like not even half a mile long, and then I would look at my friend, and he'd look terrified. I've never seen him so scared in his life. But he'd like have his hands in his hair, his eyes would be so wide. He'd be like, dude, I don't. And he kept telling me to lead him. He said, dude, lead me. And I'd be like, I'm doing this too, man. I don't know what's happening. And I would say that, and he kept telling me to guide him. And I was like, I'm looking for the porta potty, wherever that is, if that even exists. And we found this bench we sat on. We sat on this bench, and I needed water so bad. So on this bench, we sat down. I went into my backpack to get my water. And then I realized that I needed water. So I went into my backpack to get my water. But then I realized that I needed water, and this kept happening over and over again. I kept going to get my water bottle, not getting it for some reason. And then remembering that I am so thirsty, so I'd go back to get my water bottle, and it was just right there. But then I would just sit again for a minute, and I'd be like, "Oh wait, I'm thirsty. What am I doing?" But it took so long. Eventually, I got it, and I was like, I hated that. I really didn't like that. I was like, I feel like I'm being manipulated by something other than myself, and I don't like this. So that was scary too. And we both had these juicy drop pops.
Nice.
You know JC Drop Pop.
Of course.
They will be forever changed for me. But same thing with the Juicy Drop Pop. I was like, I want it. And then I went back and forth over and over again and I never got it. It took 20 minutes. I got my Juicy Drop Pop, and I just started eating it. And then it hit me. I was like, how sure am I that I'm not like eating my friend's arm right now? Just
Jesus,
like,
man.
I did. This crossed my. I was like, how do I know I'm not just like biting into his like flesh and eating it in public right now? Because this thing is delicious and like, I don't know what's happening. And is that what this is? Luckily, it was just the Juicy Drop Pop, so that's good.
I'm glad.
Yeah, me too. So I ate that thing. It took so long. And we sat on this bench, and like people would walk by and have like conversations, and I would hear their conversations, but I wouldn't know what they were saying. I remember that happening. And then we found a place to lay down. We lay down, and I said, and you know the smoke trails from like airplanes?
Yeah.
That was another big part of the day. They were everywhere. And not just because I was tripping, they were actually everywhere. And I would look up, and they would be like the trails would be there, and then they would start to like zigzag like this.
Oh yeah, clouds get trippy.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this is the first time I've ever hallucinated in my life, but I was seeing these clouds start to move. And when I'd look at my friend, his face would be literally melting. Like his features would be melting off of his face.
This would be like warping and
Yes.
stuff, and then like it'll look like
yes,
like Snapchat filters.
Exactly. And like my hands would be like, my fingers would be getting really long, and oh man, it was crazy. And he was just tweaking hard. Like he started like getting up and like saying, I need to go home, I need to get out of here. And I was like, okay, where's home? And he'd be like, I don't know. And it was scary, dude, because I was like, me neither. Like, what do we do? I was like, this is just where we are. This is the rest of our lives. And that's what we thought. We thought this was the rest of our lives.
Oh, no.
And that was terrifying. Because we didn't know anything else. And it was crazy. So crazy. And I ended up calling one of our friends that has done this before. Somehow I got to my phone and did that. It probably took a really long time.
Probably took like 40 minutes.
Yeah, truthfully.
Like, oh yeah, I got it. Oh yeah, I got it.
That's what kept happening. And I called him, he answered, and I was like, dude, I need help. I feel like this is my life. Tell me that it's not. Tell me that it's going to be over. And he reassured me. He was like, guys, it'll be over. You just need to enjoy it. And I was like, you're right. You're right. It did not quell my friend at all. He was still freaking out. And I didn't know what to do about it because I was also low-key freaking out. The end of the journey. There was an end. I don't know how we got there, but everything started to realign a little bit, and I started to realize what was real and where we were slowly. It was very weird. It was like pieces of consciousness being like a puzzle being put back into place in my mind, like piece by piece. It was very weird. That was a really weird thing because I can't tell. There was no like, boom, shift. You're conscious again. Yeah. No, it was just very slowly and at this point we were like walking up this hill, and like together, and then we looked at each other, and we started laughing. And then we started crying, and we like hugged, and we turned around. And, like, the sun was going down, and there was this, like, amazing tree behind us in this just open field. And we were like, we did it. This is the end, dude. We reached whatever this is to us, it's nothing, but we did it. We reached the end. And we sat down and, like, put our backs against the tree, and just, like, held each other and watched the sunset. And we were like, dude, today was 20 years long. And I experienced so much, but everything was beautiful, and it was terrifying, and I learned so much about myself and about the world, and we're here together. And we pulled out Howl by Ginsberg. We read poetry and smoked a J, and it was beautiful, dude. And then this bug came and like flew and like landed, a beetle like landed on our hands, and we like watched it, and we were like, and we said to ourselves like, we think this is our guide, and he's coming to tell us goodbye, and that he'll see us again soon. And we watched him, and he like walked around on us for a while, like was looking at us, and we were like, thank you. Like, have you been like protecting us this whole time? This sounds crazy, but like,
no, it's awesome.
in the moment, it was like one of the most beautiful.
It was just like, of course, this is our guy.
Exactly.
Like, it has to be.
Yeah, and we were like, and then he flew away, and we were like, bye. And then there we were under that tree watching the sunset, and we were like, oh, just being back in the world after nothing had existed for me was just a very, very weird experience. Nothing I had ever experienced ever before in my life.
Yeah, man.
And I think important.
Sounds mystical as fuck.
Mystical as fuck is correct.
Spiritual, yeah.
Spiritual, yeah. This was like as close to peyote as I think I'll ever go. Truthfully. It was, yeah. So that was my trip.